Today, a small group of people are capable of doing things that only the superpowers could do. Imagine you as an individual today can do things that has never been done by even the largest states. So, as you can imagine, I grew up in India. And let me tell you, it was humble days, the humble times where we had no food to eat. I came to America with $5 in my pocket and with a dream of doing something amazing. Imagine a country that gave me an opportunity to do anything I wanted. You know what I wanted to do? I wanted to do things that had never been done. I wanted to go to the moon. I knew I could do it, not because I knew how to do it, but I believed if I dreamed that big, someone will make it possible for me. So today, a small group of people at Moon Express are going to be landing on the moon next year. And when we land on the moon, we will become the 4th superpower to ever land on the moon. And it won't be Russia, it won't be UK, it won't be Germany, it won't be France. It will be a small group of people who dreamed big. So what are the kind of things I'm talking about? What will make this amazing society that we all want to live in? It simply starts with change of mindset. We all are grown up with a mindset of scarcity. The mindset of scarcity means somehow the things are in scarcity. And guess what happens when we think something is scarce? We start to believe it's valuable. We start to hoard it. We start to think we want more of it because it just may go away. But imagine, what if the things are not scarce? What if things are in abundance? So imagine everything that you want, that you think is scarce, and let me tell you how to make it in abundance. So the things are scarce because somehow we believe that we can't create more of them. And we create this concept of sustainability. And what sustainability has become a synonym for conservation. The less we use, the more we can somehow last. And then people talk about, oh my God, the population is growing. How could this planet sustain 10 billion people someday when we have 10 billion people? We got to do something about it because the resources are scarce. What is scarce? We say the planet Earth can't support it. It's our mindset that we have to live on a planet Earth. We only inhabit a very small portion of planet Earth. But imagine, what if you could live on the moon, you could live on the Mars, and you could live anywhere? Is the land really scarce? But you say, well, we don't have enough of the fresh water. How are we going to have all these people living with the water when we don't have abundance of fresh water? We live on a planet that is nothing but water. It just so happens it's in the ocean and it's salty water. But it's in abundance. So what if we can create an abundance of energy that can create desalinization in abundance, and we can have abundance of fresh water? But as an entrepreneur, that is not the only way you could look at it. You start to think about, where does the fresh water go? And we suddenly realize the majority of the fresh water is used in agriculture. So what if we change agriculture to use the salted water, or use the aeroponics or aquaponics to grow the agriculture in a vertical farms that uses very little water? Now we can create abundance of water. And then you take a step further, and you say majority of the agriculture is used to feed the cattle. What if I'm not moral judge? What if you want to eat beef, but you don't want to raise cattle? Could you use a stem cell from a cow and simply create the muscle tissues that we want to eat? And now you have biofactories of nothing but beef and muscle tissues without ever having to grow a cow. And suddenly, all that agriculture is now available for humanity, and all that fresh water is now available for us. So now think about it. A fresh water problem became a synthetic biology problem. And that's how the entrepreneurs think about what is the root cause of how we solve problems. We talk about the population that's aging and our health care because it's scarce. What if you know that you could change the way we live? Our evolution happened because over generations we mutated. And today we are able to live not just 25 years, up to 85 or 90 years. And we believe everybody must die. Everybody should be somehow the life will end. Well, what if I told you that doesn't have to be that way? We can continue to increase the lifespan, and we can live as long as we want, and we can live healthily. In fact, there are many scientists that are finding the biggest disease facing humanity. You know what's one disease that kills almost all the people in humanity? It's called aging. What if you can cure aging? What if you could live healthy forever? In fact, I was just reading research this morning that the scientists have now figured out, at least in mice, how to make them live healthy for a very, very long time. And all they did was simply remove the senescent cells, which are the cells that stop dividing. And once you stop to remove them, suddenly the osteoporosis that removes your body mass, the muscle mass, and your brain, it suddenly starts to work better. You feel young, and you look young. So imagine if you are able to change your own genetics rather than the nature changing you every 100 years. What if you can modify your own genes? And today that is possible. There is a technology called CRISPR that allows you to modify your genes so that any disease that caused by mutation of genes can be cured in embryo alone. And not only that, you can in fact get any traits you want. You want blue eyes and you want the blonde hair and you want a perfect nose, you can modify your genes to get exactly that. But it's not about that. It is simply about having a control about what is possible. In fact, the technology that are coming out not only have an initial impact, they have a secondary and tertiary impact of how we can change humanity. So imagine, today, if you're disabled, your options are few in terms of what you can do and where you can go. Remember, if you have an autonomous car that drives you wherever you want to go, it changes the perspective of what is possible. When we have autonomous cars, do you really have to have a parking lot next to your building? Do you really have to own the car? Do you really need so much road because these cars can communicate with each other and can be driving close to each other? What if autonomous car is just the beginning of artificial intelligence, where a computer, a $1,000 computer or your smartphone is as intelligent as a human being, and it can make the same decisions as good, if not better, than human beings. Now imagine all of these computers are connected to each other, and suddenly you have all of the brain power of all humanity connected together, making a decision. Is there any problem that can't be solved when the 10 billion brains are working together to solve it? There is nothing absolutely impossible that we can do. So it is all about two things: dreaming so big that people think you are crazy. In fact, when you tell someone what you're doing, if they don't think you're crazy, you're not thinking big enough. Tell them you're going to mine the moon, and then you know what they say? That's freaking crazy. Right? And I know I am on the right path. And the second thing that stops people from doing things is fear of failure. People are afraid to fail. Let me tell you, as an entrepreneur, you never ever fail. You pivot. Every single idea that does not work becomes a stepping stone to a bigger idea. Success is not about how much money can you make. Success is about how many lives can you positively impact in humanity. Success is not about how many schools are named after you. Success is about humility. In fact, the only way you know someone is successful is the day they become humble. If you have an iota of arrogance left in you, that means you're still trying to prove something to someone or yourself. You are not successful. So if anybody thinks Donald Trump is successful, he will tell you how much money he has. He's still trying to prove to someone else and himself. Success comes when you don't have to say, you know who I am. If you have to ask, you're nobody. So continuing, the technology is moving at such a fast pace. In fact, the networking, the computing power, the cost of computing is coming down to marginally a zero cost. Today, in our phone, in our hand, we hold iPhone. That has more computing power than the computers that landed the man on the moon. Imagine that. We all are carrying that computer that's more powerful that afforded us to land on the moon. Not only that, our phones now have all the sensors that used to be millions of dollars, the GPS, the accelerometer, all the components in these sensors are now built into our phone. Now imagine, since there are billions of phones being sold, the price of these components are coming down. You know what happens when sensors have become more powerful and cheap? They become the way for you to diagnose your health. Imagine if you had a single device like the size of your iPhone that can detect every disease that you can ever face. It can not only diagnose diseases, it can recommend what would work just for you because it's constantly monitoring everything in your body. And it's not a science fiction. In fact, the devices are being built today that with a single drop of saliva or a single nasal swab, they will be able to diagnose every disease better than the board-certified physician. Imagine what happens then. That means you become the CEO of your own health. You start to monitor what works for you. In fact, we as humans are so proud of who we are. Now, we forget that 90% of the cells in our body are not our own cells. They are microbiome, the bacteria that is actually inside you that's helping you live. In fact, that these bacteria makes you who you are. So if you're so proud of yourself, just remember, you're nothing but a host for parasite. Right? That's who we are. In fact, every disease, whether it's Alzheimer or Parkinson's or anxiety or depression, is caused by the imbalance of the microbiome in our gut. In fact, when your mother tells you, trust your gut feeling, she's saying, listen to your gut, what it's telling you, because that's what decides how you think. In fact, our gut has a whole neural network inside it. So when you are anxious and when you are angry, remember what happens? It hurts in your stomach because that neural network is releasing cortisol in your body that's causing that anxiety in your gut. In fact, what you eat depends on what kind of bacteria grow in your gut. So what happens is when you're eating lots of carbohydrates and sugar, you are in fact feeding a colonies of bacteria called Firmicutes. These Firmicutes are really happy with all the wonderful things that we love to eat. But guess what happens? As a byproduct, they release toxin. This toxin causes the inflammation in our body, and inflammation is what causes the heart attacks. It causes the Alzheimer, it causes the anxiety, and it causes the depression. So what if you can change your diet? That changes your disease, and you have constantly monitoring sensors that are telling you what diet is going to work for you and what's working and what's not working, because it's constantly analyzing our body. What if you could have nanobots that are traveling in your blood? These nanobots are tiny, tiny dots that are just like the cells that travel in your blood. They're constantly monitoring everything. And they even may have oxygen that are built into them. So when your heart stops pumping, you don't go die. These molecules, these nanobots, start releasing oxygen. You take a nice shower, call your doctor and say, hey doc, my heart stopped working. Would you print me a new one? I'll be there in 30 minutes. Right? And by the way, they are printing the hearts today in the labs. They're able to take your own skin cells, convert them into heart cells, and can print you a new heart. So imagine there is no rejection. It's not like you have to wait for someone to die to get a new heart. You can print one. And if you were young and you just loved to party and you drank a little too much, don't worry. There is always a new liver waiting for you. Right? So go drink to your heart's content. Don't worry about it. Right? And some of us who just absolutely love to eat, just remember what happened. Our human body evolved because we were living in the savannas where the food came every few days. And when we ate every few days, the body needed to survive. So you know what it did? It starts storing that fat in your body. What if you can change the programming of your body, just like you change the software, and you update the software just like you update your iPhone, and you tell your body, just because I had a big lunch doesn't mean I'm not going to have a big dinner. Stop storing. I'm going to have an apple pie for lunch, and I'm going to have a big pie of cheesecake for dinner. So don't worry about me. I'm totally fine. I'm going to even have a burger on the side and fries. Right? So my point is, we can be in complete control of who we are through our diet, through our genetics, and by the way, using the technology as a 3D printing, not just to print parts, but also to print our human organs. And we'll be able to completely, using stem cell therapy to be able to build the new knees, the new cartilages, the new bones, and suddenly you start to see we are completely becoming a different person, but we still are the same person. So what does it really mean to be me? And you start to ask, if we replace our knee, we replace our heart, we replace our liver, is it still me? And the answer is, we all believe so, right? Because if we think we are our body changes from the time we are baby by the time we grow up. Our body is constantly changing, so that can't be me. If our DNA is me, then you're living forever because your DNA is in your kids. So what does it really mean to be me? And I think eventually you will conclude that our memories and our experiences makes who we are. And somehow if we can keep them together, it doesn't matter how many parts of the body we change. Sometimes we can get a new arm, we can get the new legs, the new liver. It's still me because our memory and our experience is the same. But what if you can download those memories and experiences into a new body? What if that body could be anything you want? What if you could transplant your head into someone who's been really working out a lot? Right? What if somebody who's working out a lot is actually not even biological? What if it's simply a robot that just happened to have a great body? And you can make it look just like a human body. And you still have the same memories and experiences, and you can appear anywhere you want. So the idea of telecommuting or teleporting starts to become real, because I transfer my brain to a new body, I suddenly am in Barcelona. It comes right back to me, I'm back in Miami. And I can go move on to anywhere I want. In fact, we are already starting to create life in a very distant places. So imagine if you can sequence a DNA today, and you can send an email with the code of your DNA synthesis, which is nothing but zeros and ones, and you can print the DNA, it's called DNA synthesis, on the other end. We did that for bacteria. In fact, Craig Venter is able to completely create a new life right out of computer, put that in a cell, and it divided. He became God that created new life. So what if we are able to now take our own DNA and send it somewhere else, and we can reprint it on the other side? Imagine if you are able to sequence your own sperm, send that in the email, and someone uses that. The excuse of, honey, I was not in town, doesn't apply anymore, right? So my point is, these times are amazing. The things we'll be able to do in our own life in the next 10 years, everything that we thought was a science fiction is going to become a reality. So we'll be able to completely change our own human body. We'll be able to apply our memories and experience to something completely different body. We'll be able to 3D print our own organs. We'll be able to have an artificial intelligence that makes us artificial, because it's going to be real intelligence. Intelligence so smart that will be able to think better than any humans can do. In fact, you would argue that today many of the technologies are smarter than most humans anyway, because we make dumb decisions, right? And sometimes you wonder, what was I thinking, right? And in fact, they did very interesting thing. They did a test in London when someone came for complaining of chest pain. They had a doctor look at the person whether to admit them or not, and then there was a machine that simply asked a lot of questions and looked at all the results. In fact, machine every time diagnosed better when the person who was actually having a heart attack versus the doctor. Because we as humans have a lot of things that we essentially I would say, allow us to make bad decisions. If pretty girl walks in and say, "Oh, doctor, doctor, my husband is dying," you say, "Honey, you don't worry, I'm going to take good care of him. I'm going to take him right now because I know he's having a heart attack." He doesn't even know he's having a heart attack yet, right? So we as humans don't make the best decision. So what if we allow someone like intelligent that is actually has all the data to be able to make that decision? And you wonder, what would the humans be? In fact, I would argue that even when the computers become as smart as we are, the humans and computers will always be better than human alone or the computer alone. And if ever somebody wondered if all these artificial intelligent robots are able to do everything, what would humans do? Would we be out of job? I say no. In fact, every single time the technology has advanced, it has always created new jobs. In fact, 50% of the jobs that exist today did not exist 30 years ago. Who would have thought of data analytics or a big data? All the new jobs are created by technology. So as the technology advances, we'll continue to create new jobs. In fact, a technology that is so good to replace humans can also augment humans to do the things that humans were not possible. So if you are a bus driver and your job can be eliminated by an autonomous car, now the technology that replaced your job is powerful enough for you to go become a nurse, because you don't need to have a degree of a doctor, because artificial intelligence can give all the information you need, and what you need is a human touch. If you were a best bus driver because you cared about kids, now you can be a great nurse who cares about kids, because all the knowledge can come from the artificial intelligence. So my point is, the humans about having that empathy is what makes us who we are. Having a care for each other is what makes who we are. And we may say that we as humans don't care about each other. It is in our DNA. In fact, it is so built into our DNA that every person knew when we were growing up in jungles that if in our tribe anybody died, we all died. The only way we survived because our tribe survived. That means we learned to care for each other. It is in our DNA. What really happens is, over time we forget who we are. And when we start to become successful, you know what we do? We start to think about charity. And charity to us means what? Writing a check. We write a check and we feel really good about it. Philanthropy should never be about giving money. Philanthropy should be about solving a problem. If you care enough about something, go out and solve it. The most valuable thing you have in your life is your time. And if you give your time, you've given someone that you can never get back. You can always make more money. The time that you spend and you give someone can never come back. That's the most valuable thing you give someone. So when you walk out of here, give someone your time. If you care about something, go out and solve it. Become an entrepreneur, because every single problem can be solved by great innovators, great inventors, and great entrepreneurs. And just remember, there is not a single problem that we as humans face that we can't solve ourselves. All we need is a desire to do it, dream big, and never be afraid to fail. Thank you very much.